Hey everybody, how's it going? This is going to be the first video in a series of book reviews I'm going to be doing. I've been listening to a podcast called The Losers Club, which is a Stephen King podcast where they go through and read all the books in chronological order and they talk about them. And they do a podcast on each book, sometimes more than one. Like The Stand, I think was like 4 podcasts because it's so long. And I don't know, I really enjoy listening to it. It's done by Consequence of Sound, and they're really into Stephen King, and they know what they're talking about, and they really get in-depth to everything. And listening to these podcasts, I've started to feel like I wanted to read all these books again. I've read every Stephen King book. I own every Stephen King book. And it's been a long time since I've read some of these. So I really wanted to, most of them I've already read more than once. I wanted to get into reading them again. I'm going to be trying to do it in chronological order like they do. When it comes to things like the Bachman books, I don't know if I'm going to read this. There's 4 of them in the Bachman books. I do have the one with Rage. Rage is the story that is out of print now by Stephen King's choice. I don't know if I'm going to read them separately, as in when the original Bachman books came out, or if I'm going to read them all together in the one book. I haven't decided that yet, but I just wanted to read these and talk about them again. And like, I'm not going to be getting as in-depth as the Consequence of Sound podcast does. And I don't want to make this a big commercial for that podcast, but it is really good, and I really do enjoy it. And if you're a Stephen King fan, you should really check it out. But, yeah, so obviously I started with Carrie. Carrie was published in 1974. It's been a long time since I read this one. Pretty much everyone, I think, knows the story of Carrie. It's a girl who has telekinetic powers. She lives with her mom, who is a religious fanatic who abuses her, drags her by the hair into a prayer room, makes her pray. So she's kind of shut off from, and she's made fun of at school. She's bullied a lot at school, which I can see a lot of parallels between then and now. All the bullying that goes on now is crazy, and I think it's pretty relevant when it comes to that still, even though it was published 43 years ago. So yeah, she gets bullied a lot at school, and there's an incident where she's in the locker room, girls' locker room. She has her period, and she doesn't know anything about having a period because of her mother's religious fanaticism. And she thinks she's bleeding to death. The other girls make fun of her. They throw tampons at her, tell her to plug it up. And that's really where it begins as far as this book goes. And we all know what happens at the prom. So, yeah, the book kind of jumps back and forth. By the way, this is the edition I read. I have a couple editions of this book. I'm kind of addicted to collecting different editions of Stephen King books. But yeah, this is the one I read this time. I don't think I've read this edition yet, but I've had it for a while. I go to like library book sales and stuff like that and pick these up for cheap. And it says author of The Dark Half on it, so obviously it's not a first edition. The Dark Half came out in 89, I believe, and this is 74. But it does have a picture on the back of Sissy Spacek from the original Carrie movie. Yeah, that's the one I read. It's a short book as far as Stephen King goes. It's only 245 pages, I believe. But like I was saying, it jumps back and forth in time between when she's at school before the prom and at the prom, and then it jumps forward in time to after what happened at the prom and people talking about what happened at the prom, articles and letters and various parts of books writing about what happened at the prom, writing about telekinesis, this telekinesis gene, and how they're going to study it and what they're going to do about it, stuff like that. So yeah, in case, I'm going to say spoilers, even though the book's 43 years old, and you've probably at least seen the movie, but there's a couple movies now, and I'll get to that. But, you know, she goes to the prom. These girls are suspended from going to the prom because of what they did. And this one girl, Chris Harkinson, I believe her name is, is not happy about it. So she decided to get revenge, even though she's the one that did what happened. And it's her fault that she's suspended, but, you know, she's a bitch. And so she plans this prank where her and her boyfriend, Billy, I believe his name is, just, like, they get some pig blood. They want to dump it on her. Okay, let me get into something else here. I should have mentioned this. Susan, there's a girl, Susan, who was part of the throwing the tampons, and the teacher said, you know, he had to apologize. He gets suspended. You're not going to go to the prom. She does, and she doesn't get suspended for going to the prom, but she asks her boyfriend Tommy to take Carrie to the prom, so she feels a little better about what she did. So then we get to the prom. They get the pig's blood. They arrange it for so Tommy and Carrie win the ball, king and queen, and they dump the blood on them. And Carrie goes nuts and just destroys the town, basically. Kills a lot of people. And I really like this book. It's a really good first book. Famously, there's a famous story that Stephen King threw this book, the original copy of this book, in the garbage, and he didn't think it was any good. And his wife fished it out of the garbage and made him send it in, and it was published and became his first book, and we all know what happened after that. So, yeah, I'm not going to say too much more about this. The movies, the original movies, movie starring Sissy Spacek, John Travolta's in it, there's some other people in it, and it's a really good movie. Brian De Palma directed it. It's pretty iconic. It's hard to read this book without thinking of the movie now. So, check that out. It's really good. There was a remake with Chloe Grace Moretz. Well, there was actually a remake before that. There was actually a sequel, The Rage Carrie 2, which I still haven't seen. Then there was a made-for-TV movie of Carrie, which I haven't seen that either. But I did see the remake with Chloe Grace Moretz, and it was decent, but it was basically just the same movie, only set now. And they had cell phones, so they were taking pictures of her and stuff. And I got nothing against Chloe Grace Moretz. I think she's a good actress, but she is way too cute and pretty to be playing Carrie. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, Sissy Spacek was kind of weird looking, and she could pull it off, but Chloe Grace Moretz is really cute, and just her playing Carrie is just strange to me. But yeah, I got the first book done. Carrie, loved it. Like I said, I find a lot of parallels with today as far as the bullying goes. Yeah, the first movie is really good. There's a few differences, like Billy. John Travolta plays Billy in the movie, and he's not quite as much of a psychopath in the movie as he is in the book. But it goes pretty much by the book, except in the movie, she starts destroying everything from the stage, and in the book, she's left, and then she starts destroying everything. So that was a big difference, but it's a really good movie and a really good book. I don't know how to rate these books. I don't know if I could compare these books to each other by giving them star ratings or something. But, yeah, I really like the book. I'm basically just telling you if I really like the book. And if I have problems with it, I'll tell you. And if I don't, I just won't tell you. And, like, for a first book, this is really good. He would definitely go on to write bigger and better things, starting with the next book. But, I mean, for a first book, it's great. And his writing in this book is definitely, you can definitely tell he was younger and, you know, getting his chops as far as being a writer is concerned. But it's still very good. So, that was Carrie. My next one will be Salem's Lot. Moving on to Salem's Lot, I'm kind of dreading this one because I love this book, but god damn, this book scares the shit out of me. More than any other Stephen King book. I love it, but man, it scares me. So I'll be back for that book. Check out Carrie. It's a great read. Have a great day, everybody.